Hey y'all. Today is just going to be another fun story time about Cheyenne, and I'm going to tell y'all the reason why I decided to shave my head, like my whole head. So, for those of you who don't know, I did end up shaving my entire head while I was on the race, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I did that. Okay, so hair is pretty important to females and men. A lot of guys just really like hair. People like hair. Like, hair plays a big role into defining who we are as individuals, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about how attractive we are, how attractive we are to other people. It's just there's a lot of value placed on hair, and that was true for me. Is true for me, less so than it used to be. But when I was, let's see, where it started is when I mentioned that I went to Nicaragua, like immediately after I graduated high school. So I went there for 3 months and I was doing an internship. And every day I was out working in this village. We were building houses and doing a lot of manual things, getting a lot of really dirty. So I wore a lot of just like work clothes, a lot of t-shirts and jeans and shorts, just like very basic, like nondescript t-shirts. And I don't like t-shirts. Like, I've never been a t-shirt fan. In high school, I think it started in high school, because I wore a lot of like, I was very particular about what I was going to wear. I had lots of like, I had lots of rules placed over myself that I had placed over myself about what I was and wasn't allowed to wear in public, kind of thing. Like, sweatpants were a no-no and t-shirts were a no-no. Like, unless I had to wear them for a school event, it was like I wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. Like, and I was just very defined, I guess. I wanted to present myself a certain way to the world. Obviously, everyone does. We all have our unique style, and we want to, be able to show that in however we can. So I spent these 3 months just wearing like t-shirts all forever. And by the end of it, I was like, I really just do not feel like myself. I need to stop wearing all these things. But I mean, it's not like I was out doing things. Like, whenever we would have an off day, I'd actually like dress like a normal person. But for me, it was hard to wear just nothing but t-shirts for 3 months. So at the end of these 3 months, I came home and I went on like this crazy like I, I, I was very purposeful about what I was going to be wearing from now on, because I was like, I can't take this nondescript thing anymore. I gotta show people who I am, like who Cheyenne is, not this t-shirt wearing missionary girl. So I got really into thrifting, and I went to Goodwill like all the time, and gradually my whole closet was just taken over by secondhand thrift stuff, and it was all like really awesome grandma sweaters and these like high-waisted skirts that had awesome patterns, and I would just take them and I'd like cut them off where I wanted it, and it was just like all like very unique, very fun, very lots of colors and patterns, and I loved it. So after I got back, I started, doing all these things. And one of my friends and again, I've been out of the country for 3 months, so I'm kind of disconnect with what's happening in the United States. And I guess this was around the term that hipster was starting to be used. And one of my friends, he was like, dude, you're such a hipster. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. Because at the time, like, I had never heard this term before. And so I thought that he was talking about like some person who listened to hip hop music, like like a like an R&B type person. And I was like, I am not that. Like, what are you talking about? So I was like the definition of hipster before there was a definition for hipster, which is stupid. But everyone started calling me this, and I was like, I don't know what are you talking about? I think I had to like Google it, because I was like, why is everyone calling me this? because I was always wearing like the grandma sweaters, and I drove like this really hip vintage beat up old car. And anyways, I remember I was wearing all these things, and I remember feeling just like I couldn't, I don't know, just very defined by these things, that if I went out into public in any kind of way, that I had to present myself in a certain way so that even strangers that I met would know who I was, kind of thing. Like, and I think everyone does that to a certain extent, but it was like I didn't feel like I was presenting Cheyenne to the world unless I was dressed in a certain way. Like, and I had these self-imposed rules once again. Like, I didn't shop at the mall. Like, if it was new, I wasn't going to buy it. If it was like, you know, it had to be vintage, it had to be, you know, secondhand. I was the real deal, you know, like I was snobby in my own way of like, it was almost one of those things like when I realized what I was doing, it was one of those things that's like, I only wear Prada and I only do Gucci, and like, and I was doing that, but it was like the complete opposite. It was like, I only wear Goodwill and I only do thrifting and I'm the real deal. And it was stupid, but it was how I felt. Anyways, so I got into this whole like headspace of like, I only listen to indie music and I only like indie films, and I just like, I can't like anything mainstream. Like, I remember in high school, and I had several friends that felt this way, which is probably where I got encouraged in this. But I remember in high school when Twilight was really popular, I refused. Like, I was like, I hate Twilight. It's stupid. Like, I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon, because everyone was like, because there was groups, you know, there was Team Edward and Team Jacob, and everyone was freaking out about it. And I was like, I am not going to join that. I hate it. It's stupid. I'm not even watching. And I hadn't even watched the thing, right? And so, but I had already made up my mind that it was stupid because everyone was into it. And I was like, you know what? If everyone's into it, I'm not going to be into it. That's stupid. It's just stupid. And I remember, that's just an example. But I was like this with a lot of things. Like, if somebody was really into a brand of clothing, like, I was not into it. If somebody was really into, like, anything that was mainstream, I was like, no. Like, I am not a mainstream person. I have to like indie things. So anyways, like, all the music I listened to was like really like obscure. And as soon as it became popular, it was like, not feeling this anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that feel this way. It's kind of silly. Anyways, and I didn't like notice it I mean, I noticed it, but I didn't realize how ridiculous it was until I was friends with this girl. And we were like complete opposites in a lot of things. Like, she listened to like hardcore screamo music, which I've never had a taste for. I developed it later, like after being friends with her. And she was hardcore into Paramore, and I was like, Paramore's too mainstream for me, man. Like, I can't. But she just like, and one night she wanted to watch Twilight, and I was like, that's stupid. I'm not gonna watch that. She was like, have you seen it? And I was like, no. Why would I watch that? And she's like, dude, you can't formulate an opinion on something you haven't even seen. Like, I was like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, that's dumb that I'm allowing society to shape what I can and like what I am and am not allowed to like based on the fact that everyone likes it. Like, I thought I was not allowing people to dictate what I wanted to do, but I was like in the opposite way. It's like, if everyone liked it, I wasn't going to like it. And that is allowing people to dictate what you do and you don't like. Like, it's okay if you like something that's mainstream. Like, anyways, I'm getting on a rant. Leading up, I'm getting to the point. Anyways, so all these things I allowed myself to like define myself, and you know, I had all these self-imposed rules of what I wasn't allowed to do and what I was allowed to do. And I went back again. Before I went on the world race, I went back to Nicaragua for a month long to visit the people that I had worked with and just to kind of be there for a little while. And I remember I used to have really awesome, like really red curly hair, and that I just loved, and everyone complimented me all the time. And it was like my favorite feature was my hair. And when I went down to Nicaragua, I decided that I was up for some change and I was going to cut it. So while I was there, I cut my hair, and it was really long. It went like all the way down to my butt, right? So it was long. And so I cut it to like shoulder length. And Latins are very blunt, let me tell you. And it's hard sometimes to like, if you're not used to their bluntness, you can be very easily offended. Because like Latins, at least in Nicaragua, and most Latin culture that I'm aware of, like, you come up to you, like, you go and you're like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, yeah. Oh, you gained so much weight. You look so fat. Like, that's what they'll tell you, like, straight up. Like, oh my gosh, you gained so much weight since the last time I saw you. What you doing, fatty? Like, they will straight up tell you, like, the first thing. Like, we're greeting each other, haven't seen each other for years. Oh, you look so fat. Like, thank you very much for that. And they just say that kind of stuff all the time. So after I cut my hair, I had several of my Latin friends be like, dude, why'd you do that? Like, obviously I didn't say dude, but they're like, you look terrible. Like, why'd you cut your hair? Like, it's just, you look so much better with long hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, crap. You know, because I had allowed myself to be defined by my clothing and by my hair. And I was back in the mission environment where I was wearing t-shirts and shorts again, and I was like, okay, I didn't have my clothes to make me stand out, and now I have short hair that apparently looks dumb. You know, like, it was all right, but it wasn't long, you know, and I'd always been told by society and by people that long hair is beautiful. And so when I cut my hair, it suddenly made me question my beauty, my worth. You know, it's like, I'm not attractive anymore. I don't stand out anymore. I just like this average girl who has short hair and t-shirts, like, and that's how I felt. And when I realized that that's how I felt, I was like, well, that's not great. I don't want to feel this way. And so I felt like God was kind of saying, you know what, I need to take you on a little journey to discover your worth without these things. And so I really just felt like he wanted me to shave my head. And at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, why would I do that? Like, that's a terrible idea. I don't want to do that. Like, shave my head. Like, I'm struggling with having short hair. I can't shave my head. But he just kind of kept bringing it up and kept bringing it up. And so I had always wanted dreads before this. When I was in high school, I always thought they were really cool. And so I wanted to try it. And so I was like, well, I guess if I'm going to shave my head, I might as well take this time to do dreads because, you know, I'm going to shave my head anyways. Like, let's just do this for a few months. So I did. I found I knew somebody who had done it before, so I asked them to come give me dreads. And granted, my hair is short, so I have these short red dreads now because my hair is red. And I've always been a wash and wear hair kind of girl. Like, my hair was curly, so bedhead was my friend. Like, I'd go to bed and wake up with these poofy curls and just walk out the door, and it would be awesome, and I loved it. And so I've never put in like time with my hair, and these dreads were so much work. Like, I thought they were going to be low maintenance, and they were not. And so I kept them for like a month, maybe 2, and I was like, you know, screw this. And by this, it was the first month of the race, and we're in the Dominican Republic. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? Let's just do this thing. Let's just get it done. So my teammates took me into the kitchen, and they like snipped all my dreads off, and just my whole head. And I remember walking into the bathroom, and granted, I'm really glad that this house didn't have a lot of mirrors this month. It was very like, there's like one mirror in this house. So I walked and I looked in the mirror, and I remember looking at myself and basically saying, all right, you have 1 second to like feel pity for yourself. Because I remember I looked at myself, I was like, well, probably shouldn't have done that. Well, it's too late. Accept it. And so I had like a second of like, well, shoot, I don't look that great. I probably shouldn't have done that. But it's too late, so suck it up and move on, basically. So I did. And that was the last of that. And so after that, it was like, I don't know, it was like it wasn't important anymore. I don't know, like, God really did show up and remove all that stuff from me. And I would walk through the streets just completely confidently, just like, every other day I forget, like I would forget that I had a shaved head until someone would be like, oh my gosh, you know what, I like your hair, you look really good. And I was like, oh, well, thank you, I don't have any hair, but that's great, thank you. So it was just it changed how I viewed myself, it changed how I felt about myself. And I was ready for it. Like, I mean, it wasn't like he told me to shave it and I shaved it the next day. Like, I had several, like, it was probably a month, maybe 3 months, probably to just kind of like digest the idea. So by the time I did it, I was ready for it. And so I just walked through life with a shaved head, and it was really freeing. It was very liberating. And I had a lot of fun when it was growing back in, just like experimenting with different things that I had always kind of wanted to do. Like, as it was growing in, I shaved it into a mohawk at one point. I just had a mohawk at one point, which was really kind of an extra funny thing because I remember this was in Cambodia, and this month I was going to be teaching homeschool kids for our contact in Cambodia. And I remember I showed up at her door. I had tattoos at this point, and I had a nose ring and a lip ring, and I had a mohawk, and I showed up at her door, and I remember her like holding her children and looking at me like, oh crap, what have I done letting this person into my house? Like, she was looking at me with such like concern, like, who is this person that I'm letting into my house? I mean, after that it was fine. We developed a really fun relationship, and she liked me after she got to know me, but I always forgot like how I looked with shaved head and tattoos and everything until like someone would look at me funny, and I'd be like, why are they looking at me? Like, oh yeah, forgot, I don't have any hair. Like, and I still do that sometimes when people like look at me funny, and I'm like, why are they looking at me? Like, oh, right. So anyways, I've gained a lot of confidence in myself just through that experience of like, I don't have to be defined by my clothing. I don't have to be defined by my hair. And I remember that same month, I was in Cambodia, and I was teaching a whole class full of Cambodians how to, with their English, that our ministry that month was teaching English. And so I was talking to them all, and I was standing at the front of this classroom. And after I was done, I realized that I had taught an entire class with no hair and no makeup. And it didn't even register until I was done. And I was like, so cool. I was so proud of myself that I had finally like gotten out of my own head, and I didn't have to define myself. Like, I didn't have to feel like I was presenting someone who wasn't me to the world, because for so long I felt like if I went out in public without all of these, without my accessories and without my makeup, that I wouldn't be showing the world who I was. And I didn't like that. Like, I didn't feel comfortable without them. They were defining me. And so in that moment, I was like, these things don't define me anymore. Like, I was totally confident, totally fine without my makeup and without my hair. I was up there just doing my thing. And it was awesome. And obviously now I wear makeup and I have hair again. They're dreads, obviously. So, because I like them. But I don't need them anymore. It's just like, I can walk out the door and my hair can be like crazy, messy, sticking out everywhere. I can go to the store without makeup. Like, I go to the store in my pajamas all the time, which isn't like great. But anyways, these things don't define me anymore. And I think that a lot of women struggle with this. And so I think that you need to know that it is possible not to be defined by your accessories or your hair or your makeup, or, you don't have to present the world. Like, I didn't feel like myself, and it was a legitimate thing. I didn't feel like myself going out into the world, and that is a thing, and so God broke that off of me, and now I can feel like myself at all times. And I always admired and respected women that could just show up in whatever and just feel confident and own it, and I always admired that, and I always wanted it, but I couldn't. It's not something I could just make happen. And it took a while. I mean, it was a year-long process, probably, of just breaking all that off and being comfortable in who God made me to be. So anyways, that's why I shaved my head. And I'm not saying that God is calling everyone to shave their head. I'm not saying that you should go shave your head if you don't feel like God's calling you to do it. But if he is calling you to, like, do something that you're not really comfortable with, like stop wearing makeup for a while, or don't. I mean, right now all of the salons are closed. So I'm sure a lot of us, a lot of you guys that like regularly go to salons are kind of struggling with feeling beautiful. And you don't need to, because, and if you're feeling that way, then just say, hey God, what journey do you want to take me on? You know, and see where he takes you, because it's awesome. It can be hard. It was a struggle there for a few times. It was definitely a struggle, not feeling attractive, but when you get over that hurdle, it's awesome. So anyways, thanks guys.